Howdy. This is my biofuel project. Biofuel is a fuel that is derived from biomass. My biofuel is algae fuel. So there are three main ways of extracting this biofuel. First is the expression method, where you use a presser. There's three different types. There's the screw, the expeller, and the piston. And then there's the ultrasonic method, where you use ultrasonic waves to create bubbles in the solvent, which basically separates the oil from the algae. And then there's the solid extraction, which is used after these two, using benzene or hexane, and it's basically used to extract more of the fuel from the solution. So algae is a photosynthetic organism, so as long as these species have carbon dioxide, water, and light, they will basically be perfectly fine to grow by themselves. In order to start an algae operation, you would first have to cultivate the algae, which is just growing the algae. Then you have to harvest the algae and then add the iron powder. The iron powder allows you to extract the oils from the algae. And then in order to extract the oils, you use the pressors or the ultrasonic waves, and then you add barium hydroxide in the presence of methanol to make the biofuel. There are two main uses for algae fuel, and it creates a renewable diesel, but it also creates, well, it's used in the creation of jet fuel. CO2 emissions. So our carbon footprint has been pretty big, and using gasoline, 1 gallon of gasoline produces 8,909 grams of carbon dioxide, while using algae creates 2,661 grams of carbon dioxide. That is approximately 6,248 grams of carbon dioxide that was not produced. The cost. So, although this is great for our carbon footprint, the cost of it is pretty astronomical. For a barrel of petroleum, it's $40 to $80, and then for a barrel of algae biofuel, it's $300 to $2,600. So it's a pretty significant difference. ExxonMobil, which is the leaders or the lead producers of a lot of different fuels, they have made a few news articles about this biofuel, and they've done a lot of research behind making them. Problems. The main problem for this biofuel is just the cost. By lowering the cost of production of this biofuel, we can completely replace the use of fossil fuels because they are so limited. So if we can lower it to around $40 to $80, that would be way more efficient and it would help our carbon footprint. However, the only way that I can think about doing that would be discovering and testing other materials that are used to process and are cheaper or easier to acquire so that we're able to use this in a more abundant amount. If money were no option, making a large scale operation so that more algae fuel could be cheaper would be the ideal way of going about it, because it would be in a larger quantity and easier to make because of how cheap it is. So it would be more available, making it cheaper. And here are my sources.